Continuing Nintendo's trend of porting Wii titles over to Nintendo Switch like Xenoblade Chronicles and Skyward Sword, Kirby Return to Dreamland sees the same treatment. Return to Dreamland was originally released in 2011 for the Wii and featured the traditional 2D side-scrolling gameplay that the series started with. With a focus on co-op gameplay, this new port with additional content and revamped graphics was a nice palette refresher after the Forgotten Land entry. Kirby Return to Dreamland stars our favorite little pink puff once again on the planet Popstar. One day, an intergalactic traveler named Magalar crash lands on the planet Popstar when his ship, the Lore, accidentally runs through a wormhole. Now stranded and in need of repairs, he enlists the help of Kirby and his friends to repair his ship by collecting the various missing parts across the Popstar. As with any other Kirby game, that means traveling across various terrains and using your copy abilities to get through any possible obstacles. While the story may not be as robust as something like the recent Forgotten Land entry, it's a decent little tale complete with cutscenes and fun interactions between characters. This new deluxe version also adds an epilogue that expands the ending of the game by about an hour and a half, a nice little addition for what could have been a straightforward port considering Nintendo's prior ports. If you've played any other mainline Kirby game, Return to Dreamland Deluxe should feel familiar. It's a return to form for the series after Forgotten Land completely changed the approach to the Kirby series. For those that haven't played a traditional Kirby game before, this means 2.5D side-scrolling levels where different copy abilities allow you to defeat enemies and traverse the terrain ahead. A Fire Kirby can breathe out fire and even shoot out forward like a fireball. Water Kirby on the other hand can glide over the ocean and shoot out water. Most of these powers are pretty self-explanatory and provide a fun mix mash of new abilities at a consistent rate. You're also able to play with friends locally with a total of 4 players. Other players can play as different colored Kirbys or as an ally who can't copy abilities, but come with a weapon of their own. While unfortunately you can't play online multiplayer, the local co-op works especially well considering the Switch allows for single Joy-Con play. That means that it's even easier to start a quick tabletop 2-player match compared to the original Wii release. Now, Kirby games have always had a repertoire of being easy games, and that continues with this title. Most of the campaign, which can take roughly 7 hours to complete if you rush through it, is mostly easy. Later sections do ramp up the difficulty, but new features like being able to equip items and abilities help make the game a lot more approachable on top of the easier mode. While the Kirby series has always been approachable, part of me continues to wish it brought up the difficulty a bit more. Later sections focus on crafting platforming levels that require specific use of abilities to get through them, alongside with some time constraints that make playing through them a bit more stimulating. Return to Dreamland Deluxe isn't just a straightforward port though. 3 new abilities made their way into the title, consisting of Sand Kirby, Festival Kirby, and Mecha Kirby. While all 3 are great, Mecha Kirby is an easy new favorite of mine, letting Kirby fly around and shoot out missiles for a devilishly fun time. Post-game content now consists of an epilogue that can take about an hour to 2 hours to complete. It's a bit of a bummer that veteran players have to go through the whole campaign all over again just to try the new content, but I think the wait is worth the reward. The new epilogue feels like a Metroidvania take on Kirby where you play as the Magalar who lost their powers and is actively trying to restore them piece by piece. I thought it was a solid change up from the traditional gameplay, I just wish it was a little longer. In addition to the campaign are a handful of new and revamped game modes. The Merry Magoland serves as an amusement park collection of 11 minigames, some new and some from prior games, where you and up to 3 other players can play. These minigames are simple and a little lackluster if you're playing alone, but are pretty fun when played with friends. Playing through them unlocks harder versions of them that are more fun and feel more challenging in this game. Playing through these games also unlocks mats that you can collect and wear throughout your time playing. A new feature with this version is being able to connect online, and while you can't play directly with other people online, you can share your score for a score attack-like setup. And of course, the boss rush and harder difficulty story modes for the original game are still here to make replaying this a bit more of a refreshing time. While I would have liked a longer epilogue and some more challenging early levels, it's without a doubt that the new content here packs a decent punch for both new and returning members of Dreamland. It wasn't until I had both games side by side that I realized how much of a visual upgrade this port was. I expected a resolution upgrade, and honestly that was really it. But with the recent visual overhaul of Metroid Prime and now this game, I'm pretty happy with Nintendo ports right now. Kirby Return to Dreamland Deluxe makes a conscious effort to not only update the resolution, but give the entire game an almost visual remake. Character models have been updated across the board to resemble their more recent iterations, and while I'm not the biggest fan of King Dedede's new pupil size, I think the rest of the cast looks great. Cutscenes have been completely remade with new models and textures that capture the same lighthearted adventure, only much better looking in my opinion. The same can be said with the gameplay, where I think outside of the resolution, backgrounds get the biggest upgrades. Levels look so much more lively, the atmosphere is heightened thanks to those brighter color palettes, and generally this version of Return to Dreamland just feels more like a Kirby game than the original did. Kirby Return to Dreamland Deluxe also runs at 1080p 60fps in dock mode, 720p 60 in handheld mode. The new bright colors in this port really shine on the OLED Switch, while the upgraded resolution looks sharp on the smaller Nintendo Switch Lite. By far, I think this game looks the best on the OLED Switch in tabletop mode with some friends to share a Joy-Con with. Kirby Return to Dreamland Deluxe features the same collection of stellar tracks from the original Wii release. These songs were delightful, featuring some notable favorites like Dreaming of Clouds that somehow captures that sense of wonder and adventure. It almost feels like a long-lost Animal Crossing track, only a little faster. The Cookie Country theme brings me the sense of nostalgia. It's upbeat, charming, and reminiscent of when I would come home from school to play my Wii back when all of us were still wondering what Project Cafe was going to be. This new Nintendo Switch version does take advantage of the HD Rumble feature, although its use is pretty light. Nevertheless, its inclusion is appreciated. Kirby Return to Dreamland Deluxe is a fun return to form for the series that makes some major upgrades on the content and visual side. Strong platforming, fun abilities, and additional content make this a fun pickup, albeit a fairly easy one for its first half. The visual upgrades, on the other hand, make this feel like a love letter to the original. If you've never played Return to Dreamland before, this is by far the best way to play with some fun new additions and upgrades. While veteran players will see the best benefits toward the end of the game with the new Epilogue, that and the new graphical overhaul made this a lot more fun to double dip, especially if you have friends to play with.